If you're over 60 and your knees feel like rusty hinges the second you get out of bed, this is why, and it's not what your doctor probably told you. Every night, your knees sit still for 7 or 8 hours straight. The fluid that lubricates them slows down. The cartilage that's already thinned from decades of use gets zero movement to wake it up. So when you take those first steps, you're basically asking a stiff, dry hinge to move instantly. No wonder it hurts. But here's the part nobody tells you. That stiffness is not permanent, and it's not just getting old. A few small things, how you move before you even stand up, what you eat, how strong your leg muscles are, can change how your mornings feel within weeks. If your knees do this every morning too, comment knees below. I want to know how many of you deal with this, and I'll reply with the exact stretch that helps most people first thing in the morning. There is a particular kind of morning that so many people over 60 know very well. A morning that begins not with the sound of an alarm, but with the quiet realization that the body has its own opinion about waking up. And that opinion is usually expressed somewhere around the knees, in that first slow moment when the covers are pushed back and the feet finally touch the cool floor. And there is a stiffness there, a tightness, sometimes even a small sharp ache that makes the first few steps feel more like a negotiation than a simple walk to the kitchen. And if this sounds familiar to you, if you have felt this so many times that it barely surprises you anymore, then let yourself settle in now. Let your shoulders soften into the mattress, and let this gentle explanation carry you slowly towards sleep while your mind simply listens and lets go. It helps, in a way, just to understand what is happening inside those knees while you sleep, because understanding often brings a kind of quiet relief, the sense that nothing mysterious or frightening is occurring, only the ordinary and very human process of a body settling into stillness for many hours in a row. And stillness, as gentle as it sounds, has its own effects, because inside each knee there is a thin layer of cartilage, smooth and slightly springy, cushioning the ends of the bones so that they can glide past each other without friction. And over many years, decades even, that cushioning is a little less generous than it once was, and the joint becomes a touch more sensitive to the long hours of stillness that come with a full night's sleep. And it is not only the cartilage, because surrounding every knee joint there are muscles, tendons, ligaments, and a thin capsule of tissue that holds a small amount of fluid inside. A fluid whose entire purpose is to lubricate the joint, to let the bones move against each other as smoothly as two panes of glass sliding past one another with a thin film of water between them. And this fluid depends on movement to circulate properly, the way a stream depends on its own current to stay clear and flowing. When you lie still for 7 or 8 hours through the night, that fluid moves less, settles, and the tissues around the joint slowly stiffen in the absence of motion. Not because anything is wrong, but simply because motion is what keeps things loose, and stillness is what allows them to tighten. Quietly, gradually, the way a rope left coiled overnight seems just a little harder to unwind the next morning. So when you wake and take those first careful steps, what you are feeling is largely this: hours of stillness meeting a joint that has less cushioning than it used to, a little less lubrication moving through it in that exact moment, and muscles around it that have not yet remembered how to move freely again. And all of this together creates that morning sensation so many people describe. Sometimes a dull ache, sometimes a sharper twinge, sometimes just a general heaviness or tightness that seems to fade slowly, minute by minute, as you begin to walk, as the fluid begins to circulate again, as the muscles warm and loosen. And within 10 or 15 minutes, for many people, the discomfort softens considerably, sometimes disappearing almost entirely until the next morning arrives and the whole gentle cycle begins again. There can be other reasons layered underneath this ordinary morning stiffness, and it is worth knowing about them calmly, without alarm, simply as information that might help you understand your own body a little better. Because sometimes there is a condition called osteoarthritis quietly present in the background, a very common condition in which the cartilage has worn down more than usual in certain areas, causing a bit more friction and a bit more inflammation than the average knee might experience. And this is nothing to fear in itself. It is simply one of the most common conditions among people as they grow older, something millions of people live with every day while still walking, gardening, playing with grandchildren, and enjoying full and active lives. And often it is manageable with the right daily habits, the right kind of gentle movement, and guidance from a healthcare provider who can help tailor a plan to your particular needs. Sometimes an old injury from years ago, a twist on a hiking trail, a fall on an icy sidewalk, a sports injury from decades earlier that seemed to heal completely at the time, can leave behind a small vulnerability in the joint, a place that becomes just a little more reactive to stillness and cold and the passage of time. The way an old crack in a piece of wood might reappear faintly on humid days, even after the wood has been repaired and sanded and polished. And this, too, is simply part of the story that each unique set of knees carries with it, a quiet history written into the tissue. Sometimes extra weight carried on the body places additional pressure on the knees, because with every step we take, our knees bear a multiple of our body weight. So even a modest amount of extra weight can translate into a noticeably larger load on the joints with each stride. And over the course of a single day, thousands of steps, that added pressure accumulates, which is part of why so many healthcare providers gently encourage a balanced weight as one of the kindest things a person can do for their knees. Not as a criticism, never as a criticism, but simply as one practical way of easing the daily burden those two small, hard-working joints carry for us. And sometimes it is simply a matter of muscle strength, because the muscles around the knee, especially the quadriceps at the front of the thigh and the hamstrings at the back of the thigh, act almost like natural shock absorbers and stabilizers for the joint. And when those muscles are strong, they take on a good portion of the daily load and protect the knee from unnecessary strain. But when those muscles weaken, which can happen gradually with age if they are not regularly used, the knee joint itself has to absorb more of the stress that would otherwise have been shared by the surrounding muscles, and this can make the joint more prone to stiffness and discomfort, particularly first thing in the morning when everything, muscles included, is at its coolest and least active. Now, knowing all of this, it becomes easier to understand why there are such simple, almost tender little habits that can genuinely help ease this kind of morning stiffness. Small rituals that take only a few minutes but can make a real difference over time. And the first of these begins even before your feet touch the floor, while you are still lying comfortably under the blankets in that soft, half-awake state. Because in this quiet moment before standing, you can gently bend one knee, drawing the heel slowly toward you along the mattress, and then straighten it again, slowly, unhurriedly, and do the same with the other leg, back and forth a few times, like a slow, private stretch shared only between you and the quiet of your bedroom, giving the joint fluid a gentle chance to begin moving again, giving the muscles a soft signal that the day is beginning, all before you ever put weight on your feet. Then, once you do rise, rather than rushing straight into the busyness of the day, there is real value in taking a slow, unhurried walk somewhere around your home, perhaps to the kitchen and back, perhaps down the hallway and around again, for just 5 or 10 minutes. Nothing strenuous, nothing demanding, simply movement for the sake of movement. Because this gentle circulation helps warm the tissues, helps that lubricating fluid begin flowing properly again, and very often, by the time that short walk is finished, the discomfort that felt so noticeable upon waking had already begun to soften considerably, fading into the background of the day rather than dominating the first few minutes of it. Beyond these small morning rituals, the food we eat over the course of each day and each season plays its own quiet role in supporting the health of our joints. And while no single food acts as a miracle cure, a pattern of eating that includes plenty of vegetables, colorful fruits, lean sources of protein, and healthy fats, such as those found in olive oil, nuts, or fish, can provide the body with the nutrients it needs to maintain healthy tissue, to manage inflammation gently, and to support the ongoing quiet repair work that happens inside our joints every single day, whether we notice it or not, the way a house needs maintenance. Needs good materials brought in regularly in order to stay well maintained over many years. Staying at a weight that feels comfortable and sustainable for your particular body. Moving at a pace that respects where you are today rather than where you were 30 years ago. Choosing low-impact activities like walking along a quiet path, swimming slow, easy laps in a warm pool, or cycling gently on flat ground. All of these can over weeks and months and years make a real and lasting difference in how the knees feel each morning. Not because any single walk or single swim changes everything overnight, but because consistency, that quiet, patient repetition of small, kind actions toward your own body, tends to add up in ways that are easy to underestimate in the moment and only fully appreciated much later, looking back. And it is worth saying, gently, that none of this means every ache must simply be endured in silence, because if the pain in your knees feels severe, if it lingers throughout the entire day rather than easing after those first stiff minutes, if you notice real swelling, warmth, redness, or real difficulty putting weight on the joint or walking normally, these are signs worth mentioning to a healthcare provider. Not out of fear, but out of the same quiet self-care that leads you to stretch gently before rising, or to take that slow morning walk around the house, every balanced meal, every choice to move a little rather than not at all, is a small act of gratitude toward this body that has carried you so far already, and is willing, with just a little care, to keep carrying you for many mornings yet to come. There is also something worth mentioning about the way we sleep itself, the position the body settles into for those long, quiet hours, because some people find that sleeping with a thin pillow placed gently between the knees when lying on one side helps keep the joints in a more neutral position through the night, easing some of the pressure that might otherwise build along one side of the knee. And others find comfort in a pillow placed under the knees when lying on the back, allowing the legs a slightly softer, more supported resting position, rather than lying perfectly flat and straight for hours on end. And there is no single correct way to do this, only small experiments, gentle adjustments, trying one thing for a week and noticing quietly how the mornings feel afterward, the way you might slowly find the most comfortable spot on a familiar couch simply by shifting a little, unhurried, until everything settles into place. Warmth, too, plays its own small and comforting role, because cold tends to make muscles and connective tissue contract just slightly, tightening what is already tight, while warmth encourages blood flow and a gentle looseness in the tissue, which is part of why some people find that keeping the bedroom a touch warmer, or sleeping with socks on cooler nights, or simply pulling a blanket over the knees rather than leaving them exposed to the night air, seems to leave the joints feeling a little less stiff by morning. And in the same way, some people find that a warm shower first thing, water flowing gently over the knees for a few minutes, works almost like a continuation of that slow morning walk, easing the joint into motion, warming the tissue, encouraging that quiet internal fluid to begin circulating properly again, the way sunlight slowly warms a cold stone left out overnight. It is worth remembering, too, that the knees do not exist in isolation, separate from the rest of the body, but rather as part of a long, connected chain running from the hips down through the thighs, through the knees, through the lower legs, and into the ankles and feet. And so the strength and flexibility of the hips and ankles can quietly influence how much strain the knees carry with every step, which is part of why gentle exercises that involve the whole leg, slow squats done while holding on to a sturdy chair for balance, easy leg lifts done while lying comfortably on a bed, slow ankle circles done while sitting, can all contribute in their own small way to knees that feel more supported and more capable as the years continue to pass, each muscle group doing its fair share of the daily work rather than leaving the knee joint to manage everything alone. There is also a kind of patience required in all of this. A patience that can be difficult in a world that often wants quick fixes and instant results, because the truth is that joint health tends to respond not to any single dramatic effort, but to the slow, steady accumulation of many small choices repeated over weeks, over months, sometimes over years. The daily stretch, the short walk, the balanced plate of food, the reasonable bedtime, the warm shower, the pillow between the knees, none of these on their own will transform how your knees feel tomorrow morning, but together, repeated gently and without pressure or perfectionism, they tend to create a slow and steady improvement that becomes clear only when you look back after some time has passed and realize, almost without noticing exactly when it happened, that mornings have grown a little easier. The stiffness a little shorter lived, the first few steps a little less demanding than they once were. And perhaps there is comfort, too, simply in knowing that you are not alone in any of this, that all across the world, in countless quiet homes, other people your age are having this exact same experience tonight, easing themselves down into bed, and tomorrow morning will feel that same first gentle ache, will take those same careful first few steps, will slowly warm and loosen in that same familiar way. This is simply one of the shared, ordinary experiences of growing older, something almost universal among people who have lived long enough to have knees that remember, in their own way, all the walking and standing and moving they have done across an entire lifetime, every staircase climbed, every long walk taken, every hour spent on your feet caring for others, or working, or simply living. And there is a kind of quiet dignity in that history, carried gently now in joints that ask, in return, only for a little patience each morning, a little warmth, a little movement, and a little kindness. So as you drift now toward sleep, you might imagine your knees resting quietly in the dark, the muscles around them slowly releasing whatever tension the day has left behind, the fluid inside settling calmly, patiently, the way a lake settles into stillness after the wind has died down. And there is nothing to do right now, nothing to fix, nothing to worry over. Only this soft, warm stillness, this quiet permission to rest completely, knowing that tomorrow morning, before you even open your eyes, you might remember to bend one knee gently, then the other, slowly, unhurriedly, a small private ritual between you and your own body, a gentle greeting to the new day. And then, when you are ready, a slow walk to greet the morning light, step by easy step, the stiffness fading a little more with every one, the way morning mist fades from a quiet field as the sun rises higher, softly, gradually, without any hurry at all, leaving behind only clear, open space, and the simple, steady comfort of another day beginning, another day of small kindnesses toward your own body, another day of gentle movement, of nourishing food, of patient care, of walking on legs that have carried you through so many years already, and will, with this quiet attention, continue carrying you gently onward morning after morning for a long time yet to come, while you rest now completely, letting every muscle soften, letting every thought grow slower and quieter, letting sleep settle over you the way evening settles gently over a still and peaceful garden. Nothing left to do, nothing left to think about, only rest, only stillness, only the soft, steady rhythm of your own breathing carrying you further and further into a deep and restorative sleep, knowing that your knees, like the rest of you, are simply resting now, repairing quietly in the dark, preparing themselves in their own unhurried way for another gentle morning ahead, another slow stretch beneath the blankets, another soft walk around a quiet home, another ordinary, precious day.